Hey guys, it's Beth Murphy here. So listen, I said we were going to talk about this seasonal affective disorder. And I have to say, I get why they made it that, and I don't like this word, disorder. I don't like that. Because I'm not a doctor. I'm a metaphysician. So the energy of calling yourself a disorder is disturbing to me. And the way that I'm thinking helped get me out of that. And that's why I want you to listen. Especially because of who you are, you're actually going to understand what I'm saying. As I said in yesterday's video, I'm going to make a separate channel for my counseling because my counseling is based on me being who I am and applying it to everyone else. So the sensor thinkies, they don't need to hear me discuss this part of my journey with this thing. For them, I speak to them differently, and I give them kind of practical things. You and me, we are on this higher level of understanding. This is how I found it in my life. I can't go with everyone else's explanation. It's not enough for me. It's not going to work for me. I need to know why of everything, or at least a why for myself. Oh my God, I must have been the most frustrating child. I remember my poor mom. Every time she said something, I would say, why? But then again, she was a frustrating parent because she would say, because. What a dynamic. Why? Because I said so. Why? So we got nowhere with that. As you may have known, I've said I've grown up with sensor thinkies my whole life. So it's like, I was definitely by myself here in the middle. But now I have you guys. And I made a bunch of INFJ friends because I guess I got sick of being by myself and I just attracted them all. But anyway, back to my journey with this disorder. And this is the INFJ perspective. So many years ago, I'd probably say like 15 years ago, this is what my life looked like in the winter. And when I say the winter, here I am in Connecticut. And it's basically, let's just call it after we change the clocks, after the time change. And that's when it gets dark and often cold, okay? Those are the things I hated the most, the dark and then the cold. So 15 years ago, and this is also a personal journey, which you can probably relate to. Again, I wouldn't tell this part to the non-NF'ers because it's all noise. And when you give them too much noise, they don't remember the points, the bullet points, okay? So when I talk to them, that's how I talk to them. I find that they listen better and I can be more effective. But I find you guys are like me. We need to know things at this higher level, so you're getting the long story. 15 years ago, I did not know who I was. I did not know about my INFJness, which means I did not know about my husband's non-INFJness, okay? Mr. Sensor Thinky. So we were arguing all the time about the heat. And, remember, these would be my two enemies here. Dark, cold. And I believe this was changing my physiology. This was changing my chemistry. Now, a traditional doctor will look at you and they'll say, okay, this is why you're suffering. I don't need to know that. To me, everything is just a symptom of something else. So it's kind of irrelevant. I want to understand why I became that way. So in other words, what is happening to me or what isn't happening to me that I get in the summer? And obviously it's sun. I don't need anyone to tell me that. I know how I feel when I go outside and I'm warm every day and it's bright. So that was kind of a lot of me not getting the help that I needed because I was in a world with sensor thinkers. And those tend to be the psychiatrists, and in my case, the family members that are like, just put on a sweater. No, that's not going to fix me. Now looking back as a child, my parents told me I would go around and turn the lights on. And even as an older person, or like when you're a teenager and you kind of start asserting what you would like in your home, because it's going to be time for you to get your own home, I would open all my mom's blinds, and she didn't like that because it was still her house. But I didn't know why I was doing that. I just wanted all the light that I could get in the house. I didn't know it was kind of this driving need to be connected to sunshine. So I had all these messages of people telling me I don't need what I believe that I need. So I was suffering because I was trying to live their way. And 15 years ago, I have a snippet in my mind of lying in front of our wood stove at the time, crying on the floor. This was how miserable I was. And it's not that, I was trying to accommodate my husband because he wanted to keep the heat at a certain amount, but those few degrees really changed how I felt. And I didn't want to dress like an Eskimo. I might be exaggerating. I can be a little bratty, but I don't want to put on extra clothes in my house. Okay, I just want to be warm and comfortable. And I already had so much going against me because I can't make the sun shine. So at least you can give me what I want, give me my heat. So, as young people in our 20s, we would argue about that. It was like a war of wills, which has been a lot of our relationship because of I believe it's because of the sensor thinky versus intuitive feeler part. Because here I am saying what I need all the time, and he's telling me, no, you shouldn't. And that's just ridiculous. You know how that is for us. So that was a lot of the suffering, was listening to other people. I knew intuitively what I needed, but I couldn't make the sun happen. So I had to figure that out. And back then, part of me listening to other people was going to a psychiatrist because it was so bad, and he, quote unquote, diagnosed me with, quote unquote, severe seasonal affective disorder. And I have to use quotes because, and I know other INFJs do this. If it's not what I want to say, I'm not going to commit to saying it. Like, I don't like the word diagnose. I don't like labels. So I was just having a reaction to not having the sun that I had in the summer. But I did need help. And back then I was open to taking drugs. Now I'm not. It would be like a last resort type of thing. Back then I was listening to people telling me that I needed them. They were telling me, okay, you have this missing, so let's add it in. But that's not how I wanted to deal with things. I want to go to the cause. I don't want to treat what you see, because I know there's a cause and effect relationship, okay? That's what makes us different as well, by the way. All right? This is why we need to be dealt with differently. Definitely, okay? I hope I'm teaching you something. If you know it already, good for you. So, the cause and effect. How do I get sun in me? So I bought a light box. They convinced me. I used it a little bit in my 20s, but honestly, I think it was like a placebo thing. It kind of pepped me up a little bit, but then my intelligence just overrode it and said, I know this is just coming from a box. I want the real thing. I have a belief system right now that believes there is some sort of energy coming from the sun that feels life-giving to me. So a box isn't going to cut it for me. Maybe it'll work for somebody else. Ultimately, I think it comes down to your belief system. That's my metaphysical stuff. So you kind of always have to work with yourself. What works for one may not work for another, and that's why, because it's based on your belief system. So the box wasn't going to work for me. I just ended up giving it to my doctor, like, here you go. So I needed to change my relationship with winter. That was one of the keys, all right? I had to change my relationship with winter. And in other words, and this was me in my 20s, and I didn't really have a strong enough sense about myself, and I was kind of victim-y. So I would look at everything dying, and the bad self-talk would start. Oh, look at everything. Everything's dead. No wonder I don't feel energetic. All right? So I changed over time. Those thoughts, I changed them. And this is why you are so powerful. I changed them to the trees are just sleeping. The animals choose to live where they live. If this wasn't good for them, they wouldn't live in Connecticut in the snow. You know what I mean? So you do have to change. You have to start listening to your thoughts, and you have to start changing your thoughts. And eventually the other things will come around, okay? And this is the law of attraction at work to me. Because when I changed my thoughts, then I started winning arguments about why I'm going to click the heat up a couple more notches, and Mr. Sensor think he's just going to have to deal with it. That I don't want to put on extra clothing. You know what I mean? So I started kind of knowing better what I needed, having more confidence to assert myself, just understanding more about what the sun was doing for me. Because I have still a belief that watches what would happen if you took a plant, your house plant, and you stuck it in the closet. Okay? You know that. There's some sort of energy. I don't care if people have found it yet or not. There's something that it's giving me. But I choose to live where I choose to live, so I better find a way to make myself feel good while I'm here. So for many years in the beginning, I just stopped beating myself up and stopped telling myself bad stories about how I'm cold, miserable, it's dark, and everything's dead, and I'm going to be dead until February or March, and woe is me. So I started changing the self-talk, and then I found, I wasn't crying anymore, depressed like that. And then as the years went on, I told it to myself that, okay, I'm in a dormant stage. I am in a dormant stage like the tree. This is my time of repose. This is the time when I'm going to read a lot more and not put pressure on myself to socialize. I'm just not going to beat myself up about that. I am fine the way I am. These are my natural rhythms. And if I choose to live here being a sensitive person that I am, all right, that's the NF. Hello, that's me. And I love that about me. Well, guess what happens to sensitive people? Sensitive people notice stuff. Before I even had the Myers Briggs language or even knew about what the hell Carl Jung was doing with archetypes, I knew I was different, and I labeled my own self a noticer. And I had an INFP friend, and I told her, you're a noticer. Here's how to handle who you are, blah, blah, blah. So noticers notice. We notice when the weather's changing or well, you know how it is. You notice everything. A person walks in the room and you notice how they feel because of your feeling part and your empathy and your intuition, because you feel a connection with that person. So I feel a connection with what's going on outside, but how I was interpreting what was going on outside was what was causing my depression. So I had to change the language, change my belief system, change how I think about what's going on out there, and then it changed how I thought about myself. If the tree's not suffering out there and it's sleeping, then I'm not suffering in here. I'm just in repose. So maybe I'm not as chatty, maybe I don't joke around as much. It doesn't matter, because again, I choose to live here. So that's all part of the law of attraction, making yourself feel better, then you attract better. And it just kind of goes like that. Like even the fact that I'm going to a gym, and it took me probably 20 years of thinking about it to actually go and commit and be ready for it. Now this is the exercise that everyone was telling me I quote unquote had to do. Well, that's not going to work for me as an INFJ. You can't tell me what to do. I have to feel that it's the right thing for me to do because I'm listening to my intuition and what I need. What I needed first was to stop beating myself up. Then I needed to start having a different understanding about what was going on around me. Then the natural course is to fall into things like, hey, here's an exercise program I'd actually enjoy. Because I got myself up to that higher plane of thinking where all the answers are. That's super key. That is super key. And I'm explaining things to you in a way that you may not even understand. But I do, about what you're thinking and what it's attracting. So I needed to make that step up. All right? You can't just, well, I can't. I can't just take a pill. I can't just exercise if I don't feel like exercising. I had to get myself up that staircase, So this was all part of it. And then lights. Yeah. I put them on as often as I can. And I will have to force myself to go for a short walk on a sunny day, because after 4 or 5 days of overcast, the depression comes back. I didn't go to the gym for, I think it was 4 days in a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days in a row. And man, it was on. The depression just fell right back on me. But then when I went back to the gym, it went away and I was happy again with my friends. But had I not had that membership, you see what I'm saying about things attracting one another and you're building upon it like a stairway? It's all part of what you need to do. It's all part of your steps. Sensor thinkies don't get that. We need to know why we're doing something. We need to have our own motivation. I did a video about that. I think in the title it says you need to be motivated. You're not lazy. Basically, you're not lazy. You need to be motivated. I think it's because we're intelligent. I'm not just going to blindly do something. So if you can make these changes, it will turn around so now they become permanent. So what you used to do, 3% of the time, it will get you there. Now it'll be 5% of the time, then it'll be 10% of the time. These good habits that I'm talking about. Then you'll be calling a friend to go for a walk that also has what they might call the blues, the seasonal blues or the winter blues, because most of the populace does have this. I worked with the public and I listened to them as a waitress, like a bartender. Most people don't like this dark, cold stuff, especially the dark. Some people, like my husband, does not affect him at all. And I think that's because of his type. All right. And I need him to be like that. I can't have two of us in the house. Somebody has to go to work every day and do what he does and not have emotional reaction to things because they're noticers. He is not a noticer, not in that way, not in that feeling way. So what I want you to take away from this is it's a staircase. It starts with not beating yourself up. It starts with treating yourself differently. Because you are different. Taking a pill is probably not going to be satisfactory to you, or it won't be satisfactory to you for the long haul, because there's a deeper part of you that knows something here needs to be healed. Something here, there's a belief inside of you that is not lined up with your highest good. And taking a pill is never going to heal that belief. It's just going to keep it at bay, maybe. Because if you know anyone on medication, It's not an easy fix. They have to keep, altering that generally. It's fine as a last resort. I'm not knocking it. It's still a tool. But ultimately, you're going to have to keep coming back to, you are going to have to change your experience and your relationship to what what people call seasonal affective disorder. And I just see it as a lack of the sun. How am I going to make that up? I know it's real because in the middle of winter, I have gone down to Disney World and been completely euphoric. It was like, oh my God, I was as high as a kite until I kind of came back down. My energy balanced back out again. So I just see it as fluctuations in energy. But it is related to the sun. And a lot of my metaphysical studies indicate there's a lot more going on to our relationship as a human being, our physiological makeup to the sun. And you can think of yourself like that house plant. There's something there that's giving you life. It's not in your head, like people will say to you, So that's what got me here. Now, as I said, I still will notice I have to get myself outside. Even if I'm cold, I'll wrap myself up. Now that solution was not available to me 15 years ago when I was crying in front of the stove. You see? So you have to elevate yourself slowly but surely. And then when you get up to that higher plane of thinking, then those solutions are now nearer to you. And that's, again, a law of attraction, remember. So that's where the solutions are at that higher level. And then now here I find myself at the gym and I just go to the gym. But again, that was not going to happen, years ago. Otherwise it would have. So I also take, because this is my belief system, I do have a belief that I need vitamin D. So I sourced the best one I could find. I'll link a picture to you. Now, I picked Dr. Berg because I jive with him. Maybe you trust something else or another brand. I just connected with him. I watch him on YouTube. I trust that he farmed the best vitamin D from the right place for me and combined it with vitamin K, which I believe him when he says they work better together. So, whatever it is, you have to work with your own belief system. And I believe this helps me, so I take it. But other than that, that's all I do. And I keep myself warm. I try to get myself bright. And I keep my body moving. But I'm only able to do that because I did those other steps. You have to start small and make that staircase. And that's how I would talk to you about seasonal affective disorder. Now, I have to go make a separate video for the Sensor Thinkies on my counseling website. And guess what? It's going to be a whole lot shorter. All right. I love you guys. And you have a nice Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.